everyone. So this is our last lesson for the trigonometry unit. This is the cosine law. So with oblique, so they're not right angle triangles, we cannot use the primary trig ratio. So this is just like the sine law. We can't use SOHCAHTOA. And that's because there's not a 90-degree angle in it, making it an oblique triangle. So for non-right angle triangles, so no 90 degrees, we can use sine law, which we learned in the last lesson, and cosine law. So in this lesson, we'll examine the cosine law. So to find a side, so say I have my triangle ABC, and remember that the side opposite of the angle is little a, opposite of angle B is little b, opposite of angle C is little c. So if I'm trying to find angle C, I need to have side A, I need to have side B, minus 2 side A, side B, times cosine, and then angle C. So I need to have this side, angle, side. So side, angle, side. They all have to be next to each other. And if I have these three, I can then solve for the opposite side. Okay, you can also solve for an angle. So if I'm looking for the angle of C, I need to have A, B, and C. I have to have the side lengths for each one if I'm going to use the cosine law. And then if I'm looking for cosine C, I'm taking A plus B squared. So the side that's attached to that angle plus the other side attached to that angle, subtract the opposite angle or opposite side, and divide it by 2AB. So let's look at an example. So in my triangle PQR, R, so little r, so that means it's the side opposite of angle R, is 10. Q, which is the side opposite of angle Q, is 8. And I'm finding the length of P, so little p, which is the side opposite of angle P. And it says if angle P is 75 degrees Celsius, or 75 degree. So why this, we can use the cosine law is because I have side, angle, side. So I'm going to use the cosine law to find first the side. So I have this side squared equals this side plus this side squared minus 2 of the Q and the R times cosine P. So I'm going to plug these values in there. So I've got 8 squared plus 10 squared minus 2 times 8 times 10 times cosine 75. If you use the decimal calculator, you can plug that right in, and you'll get p squared equals to 122.59. In order to get rid of, so I know that this whole length is not 122.59, and that's because we still have a squared on this side. In order to get rid of the square, we've got to square root both sides. So if I square root both sides, p ends up being, once rounded, to 11. So Chelsea walks her dog, so this example too. Chelsea walks her dog in the park, following a triangular path. The three segments of the path measured 125 meters, 175 meters, and 145 meters. What was the smallest angle that Chelsea and her dog had to run? So let's look at this triangle here. First, I know that this side is going to be 175 because that's my largest length, and that's my longest one here. Then I know the next longest one is going to be this one here, so that's my 145 meters. And then my smaller side is here, and that's going to be 125 meters. So if I'm looking for the smallest angle, so we're looking back at the note, the shortest side is always across from the smallest angle. So my shortest side out of these is my 125. So the angle we're looking at will be this angle C. I just labeled the sides so that it's easier to put it into the cosine law. So I'm looking for angle C because it's across from the shortest side. So we're using the cosine law to find out what that angle is. So I'm taking a squared, so 175 squared, plus 145 squared minus c squared, 125. And then divided by 2 times 175 times 145. You can plug this all into the Desmos scientific calculator. I'll put a link in the Google Classroom. And you'll calculate that cosine C is equal to 0.7099. Then, because I need that angle by itself, I want cosine on the other side. We go back to, we do the cos inverse. Again, you can type in cos inverse in the Desmo calculator, and you'll get 45 degrees for that angle. Okay, example 3. So which formula would you use to solve for x in the triangles below? So let's look at the second one first. Anytime you have side, angle, side, and they're looking for another side, that's going to be the cosine law. So you need to either have the side, angle, side, or you're going to have all three of the sides given to you and you need to find an angle. But here, I don't have side, angle, side, and I don't have all three sides given to me. So in that case, it's going to be the sine law. So we have opposite sides and two of them. So my 35 and 8.2 go together, and my 10.1 and x. So we're going to use the sine law to solve for x. And then here, we said is the cosine law because we have side, angle, side.